Today I'm going to be making some cheesy dip. I like to put it on my enchiladas and just use it as a dip on tortilla chips. And I started the video, but somehow when I paused it, I screwed that up again like I normally do. This container had diced onions. This had some red and green bell peppers, and I used a half a stick of onions. Half a stick of butter. And so I melted the butter for a minute. Then I put the onions and bell peppers in here for 2 more minutes. And now I'm going to use, this is about a half a can of these diced tomatoes. If I had tomatoes and green chilies, it would be a little hotter. But I don't use that much, so I didn't buy a whole can. I use these tomatoes all the time. I did add some little salsa there from that I use just dipping, just as a salsa with chips. So I'm going to use that. And this here is the cheese. This here fancy dancy cutter thing I got. It measures it out if you use a full loaf. So I used 12 ounces of cheese, which is 2/3 of a 2-pound box. Is that complicated math? So anyway, next step is going to be adding the salsa and tomatoes to my mix over here. So there's my special dish in my microwave. I'm going to put it on about 2 minutes, and we'll come back and check it in a second. Well, so there it is. I've cooked this for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to start incorporating my cheese. You might put about half of it at a time and stir it up in there. And basically all you got to do now is melt all that into here. It might take you 2 or 3 minutes depending on how much you put in. I don't usually put it all in at first because I want it to have some room to stir it in there with some of this sauce. So we'll go with that. So I decided to go ahead and put all the cheese in there. It'll be okay because that bowl's big enough. Just gonna stir it up some. And basically you just want to try to get all the cheese coated with the sauce, and then that'll help it to start getting melted. And do bring it out of the microwave every minute or so. So after a minute, it started to melt pretty good. We just need to keep stirring it. Keep melting and stirring. That's all you got to do. It's getting nice and cheesy. So I did it another minute and a half, and it's almost ready. There's a little bit of lumps in there that I want to try to get out. And I'm going to add one more final ingredient. Now this is one super secret ingredient that I only use when I make it for myself. I've never served this to anybody yet. But I looked up an old recipe from a restaurant I used to go to when I was a kid called Casso Olay. And their cheese dip was so good, they would serve it you get one crispy tortilla spread with the cheese dip. That was an entire dish right there. You didn't even get a whole bowl full of it unless you asked. But anyway, they use cream of celery soup to put in theirs to make it more creamier. So I'm just going to add a little bit of celery salt myself, just to add a little bit of that flavor. I tried it before and it seems to be okay for me, and that's the only person I'm making it for today, other than you folks that are watching. I'll be back in a second. So this is the finished product. It's cheese sauce suitable for dipping or for ingredients in Mexican food. Check you later. I'm gonna go eat me some. Now if you think it's too thin or too thick, it's better to wait till it cools off to see how thick it is then. If it's too thin, then the next time you make it, just add a little bit of cheese, or take a little bit less put a little bit less tomato juice in there, from the tomatoes. It's not rocket science. Whatever you like's best. Oh, one thing I do recommend is if you want to add heat, do not just simply cut up jalapenos and put them in there, unless you're very careful. Because if you're using jalapenos from a jar or a can, they usually have oil in there with them, or vinegar. The oil wouldn't matter, but the vinegar would. The vinegar will act really bad with the cheese, and you'll have this clumpy mess. It's just no good. I tried that. But anything else should go with it as long as it doesn't have that vinegar in it. Well, enjoy. Bye.